like Miami.
Miami, 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 Miami.
It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Heat Beat Podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas, and with me today is not producer and co-founder Brian Goins. Brian may not be on the podcast today. Brian's actually working on a surprise for y'all. And dare I say, it is one of our more exciting things that we're working on. So stay tuned for that. You will find out very soon what our good old producer and co-founder Brian Goins is working on. However, in his stead, to my left, if you're watching on YouTube, we have our statistician and professional Photoshopper, Christian Hernandez.
What's up? What's up? Are we ready to talk about big men tonight?
We are so ready to preview the Miami Heat's big men. And on the bottom of the screen, my good friend and producer extraordinaire, Alex Solana.
It's fitting that I'm on the Big Man podcast because in my debut for 5 Reasons, like 10 years ago, all we did was talk about Jamal Magloire, the big cat, for some odd reason. So I'm honored to be back to talk about probably not Jamal Magloire, but
did
big
you just
men
call
in
us
general.
5 Reasons?
Did I do that?
Was that a Freudian slip?
No, I think he did that on purpose. No, but wait, hold on, Alex. Are you actually telling me that you spent an entire show talking about Jamal Magloire?
We talked about the big cat on
Yeah,
my
we did.
Heat Beat debut.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we talked about Jamal Magloire for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, we
it's,
did.
It's up the pod's there. It was like the 3rd episode ever or something like that. It was
Alex-
great. It was in
Dedication.
It was in G's I think room. It was like you and me.
Did you come over?
Yeah, I think I went over and it was like I loved it.
Oh
It
my
was great.
God, you did come over. I was even in the old room. Yeah, I totally remember. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Listen, Alex and I go way back from, we were co-producers and co-hosts on Panther Sports Talk Live, WRGP Radiate FM, FIU Student Media.
Wait, but Jamal Magloire was here in like 2011. You guys were doing this back in 2011?
No. We were doing this in like, this was like 2015.
We stumbled into Jamal Magloire. I don't know how, the big cat. And then I think we were talking about his dunk where he closed his eyes. He dunked it and he closed his eyes. And yeah.
So you
The rest
guys
is
found a
history.
way to talk that long about Jamal Magloire 2 years after, actually, I'm sorry, 4 years after he had actually played here?
Yeah.
That's fucking incredible.
Alex and I love like weird Heat player trivia. I think last show we talked about Amare, right? We talked about Amare's stint with the Heat. We talked about a bunch of random stuff. Alex and I we're like too inside for Heat fandom. We're way too inside.
Yeah. I just like to talk about, like, if you want to talk about Yakuba Diawara for
We've had this
I'm your
conversation.
guy.
We had
I'm
this
your guy.
conversation so many times. Don't get me started. Jacoby Diawara's banking.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you guys want to have a nice long chat about Wang ZZ, I am always here to
Yes.
have that. All right.
I know I've memorized how to spell Wang ZZ. And it's not an easy spell, but I've memorized. How to spell his
I
last
can't
name.
even pretend to spell that. I can barely spell English words.
Well,
and English
Wang
names.
is how you would expect.
So before we start, and if you followed me on Twitter, like or follow PP for any amount of time, you know that I don't spell well. I'm a notoriously really bad speller. Like I spell like shit. I can't even spell my own name sometimes. Like that's not even a joke. I've literally misspelled my name.
No, you guys are all very lucky that this is an audio medium that we
it's
do
bad.
this show on.
Yeah. So the other day I was tweeting how I've become decent at spelling Japanese names, right? So like in Japan they have hiragana, which is a type of of the symbols that they use, and then there's something called romanji, which is basically just the spelling but with Western letters, right? So I said I can't read hiragana or anything, but I can write and read romanji like okay. Someone goes, that's incredible that you both misspelled romanji and hiragana while claiming this.
Okay, well, at least I'm glad to hear that you're still misspelling things. in
I
other
fucking
languages,
suck.
too.
I'm horrible. All right, so kind of the deal today is we're going to preview the Heat big. So last big podcast, last Friday, Alex and I talked about the schedule. But before that, we previewed the Heat guards. Christian and Alex Msube were here, kind of talked about the Heat guards. Now we're going to talk about the Heat bigs, right? We're going to preview Heat bigs, and then on Wednesday we're going to preview the Heat wings to kind of close out and kind of take you up to training camp in their first preseason game against the New Orleans Pelicans, where we will be doing a post-game show live on twitch.tv/MIA Heatbeat, and we're going to have a really cool guest set up for that. So make sure to check us us out and kind of be on the lookout for that. That we're going to be streaming all our post games back again if you were here with us during the playoffs. So for bigs, it has to start with Bam Adebayo. I think there's no other way to start other than Bam. Christian, like, we've said this so much on this show. I think, a lot of this conversation is going to be what kind of leap is he going to make? I mean, we know his role in the team, right? He's going to facilitate on the dribble handoff. He's going to be really a big part of all their elbow sets. All their sets are going to trigger with him or Jimmy Butler in the pick and roll, especially with the starters. And that's kind of how they're going to play offense, and all the motion, the Heat they're running their shooters off of places. They're moving north, south, and all that motion revolves around Bam, right? So he is really at the centerpiece of everything that they do. But I think for us, we're looking for him to take a little bit of a step offensively. I think we saw at the end of that Celtics series, game 6, Bam just completely took over, absolutely decided, no, I'm going to dominate, right? And I think that any conversation about Bam next year has to start with that. Like, can he be game 6 Bam? Can he do that for a season?
Well, as long as we have people disrespecting him by comparing him to Daniel Tice, I think that he will do that all season long. We need to find ways to manufacture hatred towards, or the perception of, feeling slighted, because, man, he played his ass off when it really mattered. Obviously, him, along with guys like Jimmy and Goran, at least initially to start the season, I really hope that he take it easy on their minutes, considering the long layover they've had. But he's going to be a part of everything they do, both offensively and defensively. There's few players in the league that can impact a game as completely as Bam can. And obviously, where we're looking to see next season is where he can push this team to in terms of a ceiling. Because really, I love that the nickname now in the organization for him is No Ceiling.
Shout out to Leif.
Yeah, shout out to Leif, because I feel like he was definitely the first one who was preaching that. But it's true, though. The Heat are going to go as far as Bam takes them. And if he can add aspects of a one-on-one game like he was showing in that game 6 against Boston, if he can add more of an extended jump shot that he can rely on, every now and then, whenever teams are giving him too much space, when Joel Embiid likes to just crowd the paint and just give him all day at the elbow, like, he's going to make teams make harder decisions, which is going to make the Heat harder to deal with.
I'm kind of with you. And like, I think if we talk about the offense, like what the stuff, the passing off the dribble, that was like some shit that I didn't think he'd have so quickly. Like the wraparound, when Daniel Tice came to help, the wraparound pass to Jimmy Butler cutting and stuff like that. Like, he was just short of all NBA last season. And I think that for sure, like, I mean, not just all-star and, seeded average, but I think all NBA has to be a goal for him this year. I think that he's absolutely there. See you nodding your head, Alex. And I think that, he's gonna be in the defensive player of the year conversation. And I think, not unlike guys like Dwight and Rudy Gobert and Marc Gasol at his prime, like, he's going to be a guy that's going to be in that conversation every year.
Yeah, I and to the point of just his jump shot, I think confidence has to be at an all-time high throughout the entire season. You saw it in that game 6. You saw it in stretches throughout the playoffs where he was confident. He'll take the jumper. He was doing the little runners right under the free throw line in the paint. Like, he was confident. He was feeling himself. That's the Bam I want to see the entire year. And I think if he plays with that confidence, you're going to see a Bam Adebayo who will be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year, who will be in the conversation for maybe not first team, but second team, third team, all NBA.
Why not first team?
But
I guess AD, but
I mean, let's go first team. I made the argument a couple weeks ago that I think he'll at some point will be in contention for MVP. Like, I think that's how good Bam is. The No Ceiling nickname is like, I believe in it. Like, I think he could be a league MVP at some point in his career. I don't know if that's my homer talking, like my cocky Heat fan talking, but I just want to see him be confident, like play with confidence all the time, be game 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals Bam all the time. Because if that's how he plays, if that's how he carries himself, where he carries himself like, yeah, I'm the shit, like I'm the best player in the world. I think he can be. Like, I really do think he can be.
Like, for him, if he's like, I don't want fans to get upset like if his jump shot's not there immediately because he does
Right.
so many other things well. But like you're saying, like if you have the confidence to at least take that, like he plays too within the constructs of the offense. Like sometimes he's a little too much. He's a little too well coached, right? Like he very much plays within the offense that the Heat run. And I thought that game 6 was an instance where he just played not necessarily within that flow. He dictated, like Bam oftentimes is not, to borrow a term from Zach Lowe, dictate the terms of engagement, right? He kind of reads the defense, sees what they do and do it. But like what Alex is saying is like 100% agree with. It's like if he starts grabbing the games by the balls and starts completely warping defenses and saying, no, I'm not playing to what you guys are giving me. You need to react to what I'm doing because I'm this fucking good. I'm so strong. I'm so skilled. You can't do anything. Well, you're gonna send some help. I'm such a good passer that when you send that help, I'm gonna spray it out to the corner, and Duncan Robinson's gonna be right there. Oh, you're gonna guard me with a smaller guy? I can take him back to the basket, which is another thing he needs to work on.
Well, think about how important Bam Adebayo was in getting Duncan Robinson open, Tyler Hero open, and that was when opposing defenses weren't respecting his offensive game. Now mix in a Bam Adebayo who's confident going to the rim, who's confident doing a little step back jumper in the paint. Imagine how much more defenses are going to have to protect the paint for Bam Adebayo. That's just going to open up Duncan and Tyler and Kendrick Nunn and Goran, their ability to get open, to slash, to make 3-point shots. Like that's why I'm saying, Bam, be confident, because even if he's missing early on in the game, people are going to remember Game 6 Bam. They're going to remember 2019 playoff bubble Bam, and they're going to have to respect it because they know what he's capable of. He showed it. Like he showed it on the biggest stage, so they know what he's capable of. It's only going to open up more offensively for the Heat, even if he's missing, even if he goes 2 of 6 on jump shots in a game or 2 of 8 on jump shots in a game. It's fine, right? Like at some point, those are going to fall. We all remember the video of him practicing for Team USA, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Bam's gonna be that. Bam's gonna be that." Like, bro, yeah, he is gonna be that. He can be that.
I think the other thing is like we talk about, like he's gonna help those other guys. Those other guys are gonna be able to help him a lot more too. And the way, because like, and I think, and everyone's gonna make fun of me because I want to bring up the Raptors, but I thought the way that the Raptors defended the Heat was something really telling that I think a lot of other good teams are gonna copy. And in a way, the Celtics tried to do it a little bit, but Bam really made them pay because they didn't have the size. But when you switch that Duncan Bam handoff, and if you front Bam, right? So what the Raptors would do with OG Anunoby, they would have OG Anunoby defending Bam, and then he would switch on to Duncan Robinson, right? So he'd really close that airspace. And then Norman Powell, whoever was Duncan's man, would then front Bam, right? So then that little roll dump pass is suddenly, Duncan really has to thread that needle in order to give it to Bam. And that just completely neutralized the Heat's offense. And then the Heat really went to a lot more of a steady diet of pick and rolls and stuff like that. So I think kind of his guards have to help him a little more there, right? Because because once the defender's in front of Bam, he has a clear line to the basket because now the guy guarding him, whoever was playing center, is switched on to Duncan Robinson, right? And then so now he's between him and the basket. Whoever's going to come in to help, it's going to be a lot smaller. And if they send 2 guys, well, now we're playing ball. Now there's a lot of shooters. He has a lot of options to kind of spray out to the corners and whatever. And he's been very, very good in the short roll. So if his guys can really, if the teams that are equipped to kind of switch that action, because you really need a center who's going to be able to be able to do that. And OG, you need a center that's mobile enough to do that switch, and also that can guard Bam, which is, it's not too common, but a lot of good, like, the Bucks could theoretically do that when they have Giannis at the 5, which, they haven't done a lot of that, especially against the Heat. The Raptors can do that. The Nets can feasibly do that as well if they go really small with KD at the 5. So there's going to be opportunities for teams to do that to Miami, and that really kind of really neutralizes their favorite plays. So I want to see how the guards kind of react to that going forward, because if they can kind of slip that pass, or if they can see that early before they can really get good front position, or they can really thread that needle, then that's unstoppable. Then you can't stop that play. Yeah. Christian, what was it? We don't have the numbers in front of us, but weren't they getting like 1.5 points per possession off a Duncan Bam dribble handoff? It was something
It
crazy
was
like that.
it was like 1.2, which is still crazy, because that equates to about 120 offensive rating.
That's insane. Like they're scoring off that action every time.
Absolutely. And speaking to what you were saying before about Bam, kind of really, I would say before the playoffs last season, was really kind of staying within the construct that was built for him, in terms of, when he's executing that dribble handoff with Duncan, they're not really incorporating a ton of counters and things like that. They're really just trying to execute that handoff, and see if they can get Duncan free, and otherwise, kick it out to another option. But I think that's going to be part of the growth that we're going to see going into this season. Is I would expect that Spo is going to have a lot more trust in both guys like Bam and Duncan, especially when they're running that kind of action, to really incorporate a lot more counters for both of them. The easiest one being, like in the situation that you were talking about before, Gianni, if they decide to front Bam with the smaller guard on a switch in that situation, Bam's got to immediately be looking to curl back towards the basket, and Duncan's got to be looking for that lob, and those are just little ways that you can break, those defensive strategies. And I think obviously, they're both young guys. Even Duncan, who's really 26, he's fresh to the league. I think they still have a lot of learning to do. So there's a lot of upside there.
Chris, what you can also do there is you can flip the handoff right back. So, if they switch, right, and they blow up the action, I don't think you need to force that. It's what I called in the playoffs a revolving door of dribble handoffs, where like if they get nothing off the first handoff, they pivot to get another handoff. But in this case, because it's Duncan and Bam on the action, now you can run a small dribble handoff with Tyler or whoever, or Goran or Jimmy, whoever the guard is, kind of coming back at that. And then Bam can kind of reset, right? So if he has a smaller guy on him, now you're in post position. So if you flip that handoff to a ball handler, now all of a sudden you get a guy that can give an entry pass, and Duncan's not stuck in no man. And then now OG Anunoby at that point is forced to re-switch, because you don't want him stuck in a corner off Duncan. You want him in help position or on the ball. So now you're moving, you're grooving. And then I think one thing, and I don't have the numbers. Maybe Chris, if you can pull up Bam's post-up numbers. I don't know if you have your synergy kind of locked and loaded. I know he's not the best post-up player, and I think in particular that's mostly fine in the modern NBA. But when you're a guy like him, and you're going to see a lot of switches because of the kind of the nature of your offense, I really think that you really need to be able to post up guys. You really need to be able to kind of punish those switches. And I think when you look at, not that Bam is Jokic, but you kind of look to that model of player, because they are kind of similar, right? They're big men who can really move the ball. They're used in very similar ways as handoff men, as screeners, as rollers, right? They're both, the cream of the crop in terms of kind of what they provide offensively. Bam's not the shooter that Jokic is, and he doesn't have the handle and the touch, but he does a lot of other things. He's almost as good of a passer, and he still has a lot of room to grow. No, as we said, no ceiling. But Jokic is able to really punish switches. So when they run that Jamal Murray Jokic handoff, if you're switching that, like the Lakers did, to really kind of get up on Jamal Murray, so then you want AD on Jamal or whatever, now Jokic is punishing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's punishing Rondo. He's punishing. So they really don't allow you to do that switch action because Jokic can punish. Bam doesn't really have that. So now what we're talking about is kind of the reversal of the handoff, and the Heat always have to do an extra thing to get the looks they want. But if Bam is just willing, like, hey, I'll fucking post you up. You want to play like this? Okay, I'll do it. And he's not there yet as a post player.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of, I think the Heat have really gone away from going into the post in recent years, obviously, like most teams have. But also, speaking to your point, Gianni, I just looked it up here. In the playoffs, only 8% of Bam's possessions came out of the post, and when including his shot attempts and when he passes and creates a shot attempt for a teammate, Heat were only scoring 0.92 points per possession, which is in the 38th percentile, which is not ideal. That's
and let's remember
towards the bottom end.
That if he's posting up, it's because he feels like he has a favorable matchup. Right.
So but that also speaks to the inexperience, I would say, he has in that situation.
Like, he's not posting up Miles Turner. He's not posting up Daniel Tice, right? He's posting up, Gordon Hayward. He's posting up, Chris Middleton, right? When he gets that switch, that's what he's posting up. It's not the guys that, you could say, oh, well, he's scoring 0.9, but, he's really going up. No, he's going up against small dudes, right? So you have to keep that in mind with his role. So, and I think, Alex, that's the exciting thing about Bam, is that, for as good as he is, and we're talking about a first team all NBA contender, he has so much room that he can grow.
Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking, like, it wouldn't shock me if this year he was a much better post player. I don't think that's what we're going to see from Bam, but that's what's exciting about him, where it just wouldn't shock us if this year He went from being in the 38th percentile to, I don't know, the 10th percentile. Maybe that's a bit
That's,
of a jump,
that's
but
quite the
right,
jump. But
right.
I get what you mean. Like a
just
marginal improvement.
Right, or maybe not marginal, but a big improvement. Like if that's something he's working on, and I get, to a shortened off season and things are obviously unprecedented, so perhaps not. But that's what's exciting about Bam. To your point, where who knows what we're going to see this year? Who knows if this year he's been working, or this offseason he's been working on shooting from the 3-point line, the corner three, if that's what he adds to his repertoire. Like, that's why I'm excited to see Bam this year and see the next step that he's going to take.
I want to say something about the corner three, because I see a lot and obviously like any kind of shot that Bam adds is good. The shot I would really need him to add is that above the break three. Not he doesn't even have to be topside, but it has to be like, he has to be where he's initiating the handoff, right? Because how often is Bam really standing in a corner? Now, if he adds a corner three, that's going to be great, because all of a sudden, if Jimmy's not using him as a screener, so a lot of times in the playoffs, like they'd have a smaller guy come screen for Jimmy. So Goran would come, and now Jimmy can actually play 5 out, because now the big man is pulling another big out of the paint, and Jimmy really has no resistance going to the rim. So Bam adding a corner three is amazing. Like that would be so huge for this team, especially late game offense. But what would really, really change the way the Heat function as a team is if he can shoot that ball from the break, because where he's starting that dribble handoff, now teams really have to think, because if they pull that out a little bit and Duncan can really hit it from out there, now you have two guys that are a threat to shoot, and they're going to be in rhythm, right? Because when you kind of roll off of the handoff, or you kind of roll off that action, you're getting the ball in rhythm, you're going to be open, and defenders are going to have to make a decision between two shooters, right? And that's going to lead to good offense. And the more options that you have is going to be better. And the fewer weaknesses you have, because in the playoffs, teams are going to pick at what are you worst at. A guy like Kemba Walker, great player. Anybody would be thrilled to have a guy like that. Competitor, can do everything. His weakness in the playoffs has been his defense. And that's what we saw the Heat pick on, right? Look at the Bucks, same thing. Like with the jump shot and Giannis and kind of their stubbornness to adapt. Like good teams will pick on your weakest attribute. And those are the difference makers in playoff series. That's what wins championships. Right. So I think the more holes that Bam can plug in his game, and he doesn't have many, this team just becomes impossible to defend, because he's at the center of everything that they do. I think defensively, kind of changing gears to that, the Heat had a lot of very interesting kind of trade deadline last season where they changed the way they played defense. So the Heat were dropping on defense a lot. And we've talked about this on the pod a bunch, but kind of to recap, you drop your big under any kind of pick and roll action, and your big man is kind of really containing the ball handler while the guard recovers on the screen. Right. So that's typically what the Heat were running, and they were running that with Hassan Whiteside because Hassan couldn't switch. Now, since the acquisition of Jay Crowder and Andre Iguodala, they've really switched to a more switchy defense. So sometimes they drop, so they'll drop Kelly Olynyk or anything, but the Heat are very comfortable switching Bam onto guard, switching Bam off to wings and everything. And I think that's going to be kind of the big thing to look at with the Heat defensively is, Christian, if in the regular season, the Heat are going to go with a more drop style scheme, or they're going to kind of switch off the bat. Now, I think probably to preserve Bam's body a little bit, they might drop in the beginning and they might switch for big games or for the playoffs. But I'm kind of curious as to what you think they may do, because that switch defense is exhausting.
I would say look at what they did this offseason. And still, to me, probably the most surprising move that they made, it wasn't just that they brought Myers Leonard back at $10 million when they benched him essentially for the entire playoffs. It was that they did it right off the jump in free agency, which I found interesting. And I think probably says that there's more behind the scenes going on there that maybe we don't know about. But the fact that they did invest that money in him, at least through the season, I know he has a player option, just like almost every other player on the roster that isn't a max player. Going into next season, but he's someone that I feel like is going to be a big part of the Heat's rotation, at least in the regular season, like we saw last season. The Heat's big rotation, aside from adding Precious during the draft, is more or less the same. So I would expect Myers to get a good amount of run. It would not really shock me to see them maybe even go back to the Kendrick Nunn, Myers Leonard starting kind of clamps on the starting lineup there. But I think Myers is definitely going to be seeing at least 20, 25 minutes a game. He was really helpful. And going back to your original question, Gianni, if Myers is playing a lot of minutes, you got to expect the Heat are going to go back to a drop, because Myers is not somebody that you can throw out there to switch a bunch. Like, he actually operated really well, in drop coverage, which is part of the reason why that starting lineup was so successful last season. That Kendrick Nunn, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Myers Leonard group was strongly positive all season long last season, obviously before they switched kind of how they played going into the playoffs. So I do expect them to go back to a lot of that, especially in a season that probably will have a lot of volatility. And so, yeah, that kind of speaks to, Spo last season went one way the whole season. And obviously there were some roster moves that kind of aided this, but he completely switched up going into the playoffs and then stuck with that the entire playoffs. So he's clearly not shy about just flipping a switch and changing the strategy when it suits him.
Would it shock you if I said the defense was better with Bam and Myers on the floor together than with Bam without Myers?
No, it really wouldn't shock me, because I would imagine that they are probably having less problems on the boards in the Bam Myers lineups than they are when Bam tends to be the 5, which is where the downside is that the rim protection really goes away. Not that Myers is like,
but Bam's a help guy
kind
there.
of right, yeah. Exactly. But just having that size is a deterrent, and especially when you're going up against a team like the Lakers, which we saw firsthand in the finals, that can be difficult to deal with.
So before you get to your point, Alex, so the Heat with Bam and Myers on the floor, they have a defensive 107 defensive rating, and with Bam without Myers, the defense is 110 defensive rating. And they're +7 net rating with both of them together. And with Bam without Myers, they're +4. The minutes are almost doubled. I think almost 1,000, actually 1,000 more minutes Bam without Myers. But Myers without Bam, by the way, -4. Pretty bad. But yeah.
I think that tells a bit of the story to why Myers, like you were saying, Chris, Christian, got signed so early, right? Like they're seeing those numbers as well. But really quickly, just to note, because you were mentioning that starting 5 that we saw for, I think, a better half of most of the season before the bubble, which was the Nunn, Bam, Myers, Duncan, and Jimmy starting 5. I remember us talking about how some of those numbers might be inflated just because of how great Duncan Robinson was to start games. And we normally only saw that starting 5 to start games, right? Like they'd get like a 6-minute run to start the game. And then normally Goran would come in. And then the Heat typically were starting quick because Duncan was hitting threes quickly and teams weren't ready for it to start the season. And I'm not trying to like shit on the stats, and I actually like the idea of going back to that. But let's also, because I remember, Christian, you were the one who pointed that out, which was like, yeah, but Duncan is just lights out from 3, which is why the numbers look so great.
Wait a second.
Most of the season.
Bam plus Myers without Duncan, -2 net rating.
Yeah.
You were spot on. Spot on. I do think the defense, that's not Duncan, though. That's just having 2 bigs on the floor, because the defense is also about the same with Myers and Bam plus no Duncan. So
the thing is that Myers and Bam typically played together to start games only.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm sure if we were to extrapolate most of their minutes together, it was just starting the game, because that was the starting lineup. Because later on in the game, we rarely saw Myers anyways in the second half, right? Like, his minutes typically came in the first, unless Bam was in foul trouble, and we probably weren't seeing them to close games anyway. So, like, again, I just, that's something to keep in mind. Where, I love the starting lineup and whatever. Like, we're praising Spo, but yeah, Duncan not missing threes really helps any lineup, really.
It helps everybody, always.
Bam plus Duncan without Myers, by the way, the offensive rating is 118 in like 1,000 minutes. Crazy. I mean, the juice that this team has. So, I mean, again, we're not talking about Jimmy Butler and Duncan Robinson today. We're talking about the bigs, but I was just kind of looking through some numbers. So Bam, Jimmy, and Duncan on the court. That trio has
That
Almost-
3-0, I
that
love
3-0.
that.
That 3-0,
Keep that.
a little
Keep
bit over
that.
1,000 minutes, plus 12 net rating, 119 offensive rating. Lights fucking out.
That's stupid. Man.
That's crazy. They're just destroying teams. Absolutely destroying teams. And all these permutations are positive. Like Bam, Duncan, no Jimmy, positive. Bam, Jimmy, no Duncan, positive. Even Duncan, no Bam, it's positive. So like those are. I mean, I think a lot of what they do on offense everything what they do on offense revolves around those three guys in particular. And I think Bam really makes a lot of that possible. Like Duncan, Jimmy, no Bam, that's minus. They're -4 net rating. So like Bam really makes is a straw that stirs that drink. And I think Myers is more of a complementary piece to Bam, which also, by the way, guys, keeps Bam off the big man in pick and roll. So he's really available to help, kind of what Christian was talking about of having that size and rim protection. I see you laughing.
The straw that stirs that drink. You're on a roll, man.
It's a great listen.
That was a really good one too.
The Heat offense is a great cocktail. It's like, listen, I'm a gin and tonic guy. It's a nice gin and tonic, with a little. I'm a lemon, not lime guy. I'm a gin and tonic. A nice.
No. You gotta have a lemon in. The
I like.
gin and tonic,
I like lemon. I mean, lime is good, right? But a little lemon in the gin and tonic. Good tonic. Some Fever Tree tonic water. Nice gin. Oh, I got some gin the other day from Total Wine. It was like a gin distilled in Miami. That shit was good. I got to get the name. That was awesome.
I don't know how you drink gin and tonic.
Oh,
man.
it's so
like,
good. That's my drink of choice in theory, and I want
but it's just
double gin and tonic.
Just weird.
It is. It's a very clean drink. I drank gin and tonic for a long time because
it's just so,
I
it's
drink
so
vodka
refreshing.
sodas. That's all I drink.
Yeah, but club
vodka
soda
sodas.
sucks. Tonic water is so much better. At least have a vodka tonic.
But vodka.
Why are you
tonic,
calorie
like,
counting? You're fit in shape. You have a beautiful girlfriend. Why are you calorie?
Actually,
I
no,
should
he's
be the one
right though. Soda is better than tonic. Tonic has sugar in it.
Yeah,
So-
tonic's not good for you, but it's fucking
Yeah.
good.
It gives me I feel like such an old man. It gives me acid reflux.
Are
in
you
the morning,
serious?
so-
The tonic
I know.
water gives you- You're so
So-
fucking
Yeah, I mean,
washed.
you can't
I
drink the
know, man.
cafecito when you got the reflux. So that's
I'm
that's
so
really
washed,
important.
bro.
God,
I'm so
that's
washed. man.
washed.
So vodka soda, 2 limes, hook me up.
At
Even though post pandemic at the arena, asking for limes that they're cutting up there, like people are using their hands to cut up.
Fuck that.
It's gonna be sketchy. Yeah, it's gonna be super sketchy.
We're questioning the sanitation of our bar. Like at this point, if I'm not having a gin and tonic, I'm just having a tequila on the rocks. A good tequila on the rocks. Like
Yes.
like a Don Julio or something on the rocks. And
Just give me the
maybe a little-
tequila, just no bullshit. Right.
It's
in my
it's
mouth.
fucking that's perfect. I mean, I love sipping on tequila. It just gets expensive when you're just fucking going through the tequila. It's just like
Well, that's why you buy really good bottles and then just drink it at home, Gianni.
I do, but
any
I've gone-
Civilized person in a pandemic.
I'm gonna bring people behind the curtain of my life in the pandemic. So I don't really go anywhere, right? I'm always scared. I don't want to catch COVID. So I've been playing. I do these anime group watches where I group watch anime with some friends on the internet,
Oh,
and
boy.
now we're playing a drinking game based off of one. And I'm just getting fucked up on Saturdays because we're so fucking deep in this drinking game that I'd finish a bottle of Don Julio in 2 watches. You know what I mean? Like it's bad.
Wait, but
That's
so
crazy, actually.
is it a drinking game where you just you play it out in one sitting, or do you carry this game over into the future?
No,
I feel like
so
you can't do
we
that
have
with
a
drinking game.
we have so there's a writer that's like a pretty famous anime writer, and he's doing a show. So we basically took all his tropes, and every time one of them happens, we have a list. So like if there's a trauma flashback, we drink, right? If somebody cries, we drink. If somebody is revived from the dead, we drink. If there's
Oh,
some
I'm
sort of
surprised you're
animal
still
apparition.
alive.
Oh,
I've
no,
seen
it's
my
listen.
fair share of animes.
No, but this particular writer has like a lot. Like if a best friend gets beat up for comic relief, you drink. We're in his bag. We're so far deep in the Jun Maeda bag that we're just getting fucked up every time. I'm just getting fucked up at Heat games. I miss that.
Dude, a bottle Don Julio, downing it by yourself in 2 sittings is like borderline alcoholic level.
Oh,
not borderline actually.
Nah, not borderline.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, you're there.
I've
You're
told
there.
the story on the pod before. I had 22 double gin and tonics at a wedding.
Jesus, that's really not
And
helping.
I
Johnny.
was
You
just,
probably
I was
smelled
gone.
terrible.
They're watered down. They have to be.
No,
watered
no,
down.
no.
And he probably smelled awful.
No, it was an open bar. I was boys with the bartender. Listen, I'm telling you,
22.
I was gone. I ended up on. I've said the story on the podcast. The night ended with me and the Uber. My friends are like, just don't say shit. We don't want to. We just don't throw up in the Uber. We just want to make it back to the hotel.
You threw up in the Uber, right?
I told the Uber to pull over on the highway. I ran into the highway. And my friend grabbed me. I went, on the highway, you have like the loop and there's like this green area in the middle on the on-ramp. Like as you're going, like if you're getting on the turnpike, right? And the turnpike kind of does
That's
a
a
circular
really
thing.
precarious place to take a puke.
I was drunk. I ran in there.
Take a puke.
I fell in the
Take a puke.
Take a puke.
Who says that? Who
Take
says
a
it?
puke.
An old person.
Take a puke.
You ever had to take a puke?
I mean, I know I've had to yak or I've had to throw up, but
You've had to yak.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a puke.
I'm
I don't know. It's just weird.
gonna hold the picture of how the night ended. This is when I was way fatter. This is how the night ended.
That's
For
great.
those of you in the YouTube audience.
You look like a cow that got knocked over.
I was a cow. I was enormous. It's my best friend Darren kind of checking on me.
Yo, Darren is such a good dude.
Yo, I mean, Darren got the short end of the stick because my other friends in the car are like, well, that's all you, Darren.
Are
you,
you a friggin' officer pulls over? He's gonna be arrested for cow tipping.
Are you? Oh my God.
Seriously.
Are you not? Are you not obnoxious Uber guy? Because I am total obnoxious Uber guy. But
Nah,
this is one of my better bits on Hawk and Crowder. Talk about pulling behind the curtain. I am a registered Uber driver, but I've never actually driven Uber. And the
Bro,
angle,
are all the Alexes on the show the same person? Just revolving door an Uber driver.
the angle here though, here's the angle though. I was taking Ubers every Friday, Saturday night for the past 2 years. Like literally, like I am spending stupid amount of money. My angle is I know I'm getting in drunk every time, and Uber drivers hate drunk people, but I found the angle to where I'll still get a good rating. I start off the conversation with, how much work are you getting tonight? How's it going tonight? Oh, I'm an Uber driver too. Boom. Now 10 minutes of me talking, making up stories about being an Uber driver. They're not going to give me a bad rating no matter how obnoxious I get because I'm an Uber driver and they understand. They we find common ground as Uber drivers. But I've never actually driven an Uber. But I'm registered.
Phony.
So
You're a phony.
Oh,
Yes.
that's so diabolical.
You're a phony.
I love that. I'm gonna try that
You're
the
a
next
fraud.
time I'm obnoxious.
Just, I'm telling you.
Yo, bro, it's okay. I'm an Uber driver.
No.
It's all
But
good.
you can't say it like that. You can't say it like that. You get in. I always sit in the front. And I go, man, like, how's it moving tonight? Are you getting a lot of hits tonight? Getting a lot of rides?
You gotta make it feel organic, yeah.
You know the terminology. You're getting
right. The
how's it
lingo,
moving tonight?
Okay,
right.
I have a question.
Yeah, I drove last night, and man, like I didn't get anything, bro. So tonight I just had to come out and get loose. Like whatever, fuck it. Hey, it works every time. My rating is flawless. I'm telling you, it works every time.
I hate you. So who on the Heat would be the worst Uber passenger? I'm all in with Tyler Hero.
Oh yeah, or Myers Leonard because he just.
I was thinking Myers is my
I'm gonna
number
say
2.
Myers just because he's gonna scuff up the car. He's too
He's
big.
loud. He's very communicative.
He does have a booming voice. If I have like a hangover or something,
my
and
God.
I'm driving,
And his wife and his wife is doing TikToks in the back the entire time. which has to be fucking annoying.
that would be
the Leonard family is in constant mode for constant content creation mode.
Content, right.
I mean, they're true. Ellie and Myers are true influencers of our time. So, God, could you imagine Myers? I mean, Myers has to get an Uber XL, right?
I know he's got to get the luxury one. I'm sure, like just for the leg space, like he's huge.
Do you think there's no athletes don't take Ubers, right? Like pro athletes, like these people aren't taking Ubers,
They
right?
take the Luxes, I'm sure. Like,
I mean, you don't.
probably.
I don't know. Alex, you're an Uber driver.
No, there's like a luxury app like an Uber, but it's like only like everything's super high price. I'm sure that's what they take because they're all bougie as fuck. That's so whack though. Like bro, if you're Kendrick Nunn, like just take an Uber. Like if Kendrick Nunn
takes the Uber.
if Kendrick Nunn gets in an Uber, 99% of Uber drivers in Miami
of course not.
Cuban. They don't know who Kendrick Nunn is. Like they, Kendrick.
Probably true.
Oh, that Kendrick. Like they don't.
Hey, Pablo.
if you're
That is it,
if you're
though.
Dwayne
That's
Wade, okay, I get it. Like you're not taking Uber. You have a limo. You have a driver. But like Kelly Olynyk gets in the Uber. He's just some tall white dude.
Yeah,
with
no,
long
he's
hair.
too
They don't
tall.
know.
He's too distinguished. KO's too distinguished.
No, they don't. But they don't know. They don't know. They just think he's some tall
But
white
KO,
dude.
but KO's in that commercial that's on all the time. The car commercial. I think it's a Doral Toyota. That's on Univision. Like,
Oh,
KO.
he did a local commercial?
Yeah, he did, where he gets his girlfriend a new car and he kind of says, "Hey, babe, you haven't seen that one? It's on local TV all the time."
I don't think
No,
I've
that's
seen that one.
hilarious.
Yeah, no. KO's in 2 minutes. KO's in local dealership commercials. I don't think.
How do you think that phone call went with his agent? Like, you want KO in a
Hey,
local
do you-
Miami commercial? Like,
You
what?
want Doral
Like, okay.
Toyota? I mean, we've been sponsored by
How
Doral
do you say
Toyota.
Maple Dick in Spanish.
That's a
Speaking
great
of
question.
Kelly.
Speaking of Kelly,
That's
my guy. That's my guy. Our professional screw up, Alex Toledo, calls me a basketball hipster because of how much I love KO. I think I know that he's the guy that gets put in the trade machine all the time because he's like a serviceable player for a medium salary amount that you can really get something for. Like his 12.5 million is expiring. I think what he provides to this team is really good. And what he does as not just a screener, but as a shooter. I mean, the dude was fucking lights out after All-Star game. It was like he was shooting over 40%. I mean, he's ridiculous. The number they don't, and that was kind of at the time that the Heat committed to playing small. They weren't really playing him and Bam together. So I mean, the spread pick and rolls with him were great. I mean, coming off the bench and even in his spot starts, he was really good. I thought in that Lakers series, especially as a screener, as a cutter, as a flasher, right? He's slipping, rolling, all sorts of movement. Like, I think he's a really, really good offensive player. And I think for the most part, he survived on defense, especially as a drop man. Wouldn't call him a stopper or anything by any means, but I thought he unfairly got a shorter leash than he should have in the playoffs. I think he's a really good player. I like what he adds to the team, especially as a shooter, as a veteran, and as a guy who can run a facsimile of what Bam does. Obviously not the passer that Bam is, but he is a really good shooter, and he is a pretty decent to above average passer. So they do run a lot of the same handoff sets with him and Tyler, or him and Goran, right? So you have Goran coming out of pistol, kind of getting into that handoff, right? And you already have the defense trailing, and now all of a sudden you have a guy who can shoot and slash with another guy who can shoot and roll. And I just really like the dynamic that he brings to the team. Chris.
Yeah, no, speaking to what you were saying about his effectiveness, I mean, it was frustrating for me because I guess I don't have a big an issue of going a little bit bigger in size than Spo does, especially in the playoffs. But historically, Bam, Kelly lineups have always been really good. Going back to
last year, that was their shit.
Going back to Bam's rookie year. They have always been a good pair together. And going back to what you were saying, Gianni, I tweeted this now about a month ago. Heat were a team best plus 10.6 net with Kelly on the court in the playoffs. And he also had the best on-off net, which is the difference between the Heat's net rating while he was on and the Heat's net rating when he was off, which means that statistically he was one of the most impactful players while he played. Now, obviously, you have to take that with a grain of salt because while he was the best net player on the team, he was also 8th in minutes on the Heat in the playoffs. And he really wasn't playing much at all, which was frustrating, especially in a series like in some of those games against the Lakers, because it just got out of hand with the Lakers brutalizing the Heat with their size. And I remember in one of those 30-point losses, they didn't put Kelly in until the third quarter. He ended up being like a plus 16 in that game.
That was game one.
That was game one. And I understand that obviously a team with a massive lead is always going to give up some of that. But he showed while he was out there the value that he brings, having a body to put on Anthony Davis and LeBron, even occasionally, not to be, a lockdown defender by any means. He got roasted half the time, but just having a body out there, having somebody to protect the paint, having somebody to stretch the floor effectively and create a little bit offensively, which they were lacking when Goran wasn't out there. Like, Kelly brings a lot to the table, and it pains me that he has such a limited role on this roster. And I hate to say it, but with the moves they made this offseason, I feel like his role might even get even more limited, which is why I feel like him and Kendrick got to become really good buds because they're going to get packaged somewhere.
The famous trade package. So
like it's just like it's especially unless they really redeem themselves and earn like solid playing time in the beginning of the season, they're the guys that are somewhat on the outs. And it's hard not to, you look at this roster, you have too many guys who can play. Like that's always a roster that's going to qualify to turn some pieces into a better piece, even if it's only a somewhat marginal upgrade like Victor Oladipo. We're not talking like a mega star, like Oladipo's still a huge upgrade and he would help this team. And that's something that I'm sure they're probably going to explore. But that's my whole
thing with the thing with Kelly though, just to piggyback off that really quickly, G, is that if he's not hitting his shot, man, it's tough to play him if you're Spo. And we did see that in stretches last season, I think, like where it gets frustrating because there were stretches where he just wasn't hitting his shot. And I wonder how much of that offensive production that you were talking about, how much of that net rating where it does look positive, a lot of it is coming against, teams' second and third units. And I wonder, like, if he were to have an increased role in this team, will those numbers not look as great next season? That's my only, I guess you could say, trepidation with Kelly, which is I love Kelly, by the way. Like everything you're saying is right. I would love to see him have a bigger role. I think offensively showed us in the finals that he can make this huge impact, especially when, maybe guys like Jimmy, maybe guys like Duncan or Tyler just aren't hitting their shots early on. You bring in Goran and Kelly O, and they could be a very legitimate spark that could, help this team through these stretches where you're not getting offensive production from your starters. I just wonder a much bigger role offensively. Those numbers aren't going to look as great for Kelly O.
I just hope that they don't go back to Andre at the 5, especially during the regular season. Like KO's he's an adequate backup big. I don't even feel like this has to be a conversation. It's like, he's a dude who should back up Bam. It's not rocket science. For all that talk, Christian, I mean, Bam and Kelly were almost, they were minus 0.23. So barely even zero, right? So they was slight minus, not a big deal. Not as good as they have been, partly because they just didn't have a lot of minutes together. I mean, Kelly played more minutes without Bam than he played with him, significantly. Dude, by the way, last season, career high in shooting, almost 41% from 3, shot 54% from 2, and 86% from the line. Just really cleanly efficient player. Kelly Keeper, one of my favorites. I agree with you that he's probably one of the guys. If I had to bet on two people, like a guy that's not going to be here for the end of the season, it's probably going to be KO and Nunn. I think that there's just clearly not in the Heat's future. As much as I like KO, I hate that, but it is what it is. I'm a fan. I like him. There's no secret. Everybody make fun of me. I think he's good. I like him. I hope that he has a good season and they kind of give him kind of some role. I like him more than Myers for sure as an offensive player. So.
There's an English football term, cheeky, like an English soccer term. A player is very cheeky, and every time Kelly O is on the court, that's what comes to mind to me. He's just a cheeky player. Like Maximum he figures cheeky. It out. That keeper that he does, and there's also times where like he slow-mo Euro steps in the rim and he gets a wide open layup and he makes him a lot. It's a play that shouldn't work ever.
He's a good finisher.
It's a play that should never work, right? But for some reason, he figures it out and he scores at the rim. Like it should never work, the play that he does, but it does it. He somehow he fucking pulls it off. I don't know how.
He's very graceful. He's like the opposite of Hassan.
You know what's really incredible? Kelly's actually the 4th highest played player on the roster this season,
behind
Jimmy,
Bam,
Goran, and Andre.
Duncan. Wait, repeat that.
He's the 4th highest paid player. Remember,
Bam's paid. Contract, I thought you said played.
Bam's doesn't go into effect until next season.
That one summer, baby. Lots of dudes cashed in. JJ, Dion, Kelly. And it's funny that do you remember, Christian, were you on that show? No, you were not on that show. I came and called Kelly a dirty hippie, and I was really upset at him. I didn't like that signing. I was so confused. It was the signing I was most offended by.
Yeah, I wasn't on the show, but I heard it.
Poor Clay Ferraro had to talk me off the ledge. I remember Clay's like, I don't agree with anything of what you're saying, but you're very passionate.
That's amazing.
Clay is one of the nicest guys, by the way. I remember when I covered my first event. I was covering a Pat Riley Baptist Hospital kind of thing for and Clay was there, and he saw me because he had been on the pod and he knew who I was. He kind of called
Why
me
were
over.
you there? Why were you there?
I was covering it for 5 reasons at the time, so Ethan got me in, and I was like, I get to talk to Pat. I was excited. My first time, man. It was cool. I didn't belong there. And I was like, and then, so Anthony Chang wasn't there. Who I was like, okay, Anthony's like my pal. He's been on the show a bunch. Like, we have a relationship. I was like, where's Anthony? And I was like, Anthony's not here. Okay. Like, okay, there's Tim Reynolds. I don't really know Tim. All right, there's Ira. I don't really know Ira. Okay. I was like, who else? And I'm like looking. I was like, no Will Manso, no this, no that. And then I see Clay. He's very tall. Clay's kind of head stuck out from the trees. He kind of waved at me. And I was like, oh, thank God, somebody I know.
Clay's the best, man.
Tough day.
Genuinely. And yeah, you don't want to go up to Tim Reynolds or Ira Winterman if you don't know them. Take it from me. That's not something you want to do.
I've said it before. Ira, I don't know Tim as well, but I know Ira's always in news mode. Ira's always in news gathering mode. Like he's working. He's a machine. I'm so impressed.
Or news stealing mode.
Oh, you know what?
I'm not saying anything. I'm not feeding it to the Barry Jackson stuff.
No, I will cape up for Ira Winterman. I am Team Ira.
What? You're Team Ira?
Wow. I am Team Ira.
So
and that doesn't mean I'm anti Barry Jackson. I love Barry Jackson. One of the nicest guys ever.
Been on the pod.
But Ira Winterman deserves more respect. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say about that.
I'm team everybody. I just want everybody to get along. I want everybody to be happy.
I don't know, man. Okay, in fairness, I haven't met Ira. I've actually met Barry, and I've talked to Barry.
I think you called him a news-seeking missile.
Yes, absolutely. No, and I'm a big guy. I'm like 6'3". Barry's a lot smaller than me, but I think that really works to his advantage because he can like maneuver into like tight places really quick. And he was like he slithered on out of there. And before I knew it, he was right underneath Bam at the event that I saw him at. I was super impressed. I learned a lot from him that day. It was no bullshit, recorder in face. Let's just get to it, which I appreciate. But also,
and he's old school. He's old school with the notepad too. Not many journalists go notepad route anymore. Barry does. He's very old school in that fashion.
It's true. He's like back in the old like Superman
go
TV
notepad
shows like the
I go
Clark
notepad
Kent style reporter.
But you go notepad because you're an asshole, not because
no.
Now you're just making stuff
hold on, wait a second. I will tell you. So
he seems like such a nice guy who just works.
He's talking about me,
not Barry. No,
he's talking about me.
Hold on. Hold on. I need to clear that up. I need to clear that up. No, because I can't, dude. I can't. No. Barry Jackson is not the person I'd call an asshole there. I was calling Johnny an asshole for having a notepad.
That's
not
good.
Barry Jackson.
Okay.
Not Barry Jackson.
When I've been in the locker room, I hate like putting my phone, the recorder. Okay, Jay Rich, I hate that. It feels weird. There's an inhuman element to this. Or when I'm filming, I'm filming. Yeah, okay. I did that when I talked to Kyle Lowry. I'm like filming Kyle Lowry. And I'm just like, I don't like this. I feel like I'm not interacting with Kyle Lowry. I feel like Kyle Lowry is talking to my phone. I feel like Josh Richardson is not talking to me. Jay Rich, one of my all-time favorite Heat players, is talking to my phone.
But he took my phone. That's
I remember that
side of using your phone. Jay Rich took my phone and was taking was looking at the UD video on my phone.
I remember that at media day. You and I went together.
Yeah.
Jay Rich touched my phone.
Yeah, that was you, me, and Cooper Moorhead. That was the little area. That was a little scrum area. That's so inside. Listen, there's some people that have no idea who Barry Jackson. We're talking about local.
I want to get to the end of the Heat bigs, but at the same time, I will say on Barry's behalf that I don't know, man. He doesn't seem like the type to make up and put on blast on the internet that some guy ripped you off 17 times over the years. He keeps the notebook. Remember, I believe that he wrote that shit down. He had 17 lines in his notebook of Ira fucked with me.
I don't know the specifics, and I would never call Barry Jackson a liar. However, I will say Ira Winterman.
I will say Barry Jackson's a liar.
Ira Winterman is one of the best people I've ever met in this industry. And that's not to say Barry isn't. Barry, I don't have as much of a relationship with Barry as I do with Ira. Ira Winterman is one of the best people I've ever met in this industry. So that's why I gotta stick up for my boy Ira.
I don't know. I'm team everybody. I love everybody. I most love Anthony Chang, friend of the show, the puppet himself. Shout out to Anthony.
Yes.
Miss you, bud. Hope all's well. Your daughter's very adorable, and you do great work at the Herald. So kind of going back to Heat bigs, not many left. We have the remnants of Chris Silva, which Christian and I once said, they might be onto something with Chris Silva. That was very early on in the Chris Silva experience. Christian, I think that it's safe to say that they weren't onto something with Chris Silva.
I don't think it's safe to say. Like, I mean, especially, are you really going to bet against the Heat to get the most out of somebody?
Oh, I'm not.
Like,
we thought he may be UD. I don't know. I think that we may have jumped the gun on Silva last season.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, he still has a lot of warts defensively. His ability to stay with guys and his ability to kind of track what's happening in a play definitely leaves a lot to be desired.
He's very green.
He's a really good role man, and he's really active on the boards, both offensive and defensive.
Little undersized.
Despite the fact that he's a little undersized, kind of like a young UD in that aspect. But yeah, it's kind of going back to what you were saying before, Gianni. This all like Spo likes to play Andre Iguodala at the 5. Like, we're talking about bigs, but how much is Spo really going to even use his bigs with the way that he likes to go? And unless Silva really makes big strides defensively, because I don't see a ton of evolution in his offensive game coming, he's really got to bring that value as a screener and as a rim protector, and he's got a long way to go.
I just think if you're gonna have a guy that's backup big that's not Kelly Olynyk or Myers, then you gotta bring something really good to the table, because if not, those guys are veterans that kind of know how to play. I think we all know that UD's not really getting a ton of minutes. I mean, he's one of their bigs, but I think, UD's there for kind of leadership, kind of make an example out of these young folks, work out in the gym, stuff like that. I don't really know what else to say about UD. And the last guy who I don't really know how to so we have Precious listed.
We should talk about him.
I don't see Precious as a big, and we're going to cover him more in the Wings preview. And I think he is a 6'9", is a huge wingspan. I think of him more as a wing. And maybe I'm crazy. I think that his jump shot, while the numbers aren't there, looks good, and he's not afraid to take it, which makes me think that the Heat are really going to key in on that and kind of make him into, the Heat have shot doctored a lot of guys, and we've talked about this a bunch. James Johnson, the list goes on and on and on of career shooting years that have happened in Miami. I look at him as a guy that you're going to guard LeBron James, you're going to guard Kawhi Leonard, you're going to guard Giannis. Like, you're guarding the other team's best wings, and that's kind of how I see him, kind of like a supercharged Jeremy Grant role. Right, like kind of the role that Jeremy Grant plays. Again, he's not that level of polished shooter or whatever, but I think he can grow into that. I think kind of pigeonholing him as a backup Bam player, I don't think is fair to him.
Did you know Precious that Chris Silva and Precious Achiuwa have the same birthday?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just learned that.
Happy birthday to both of you, whenever that is.
Oh, it's not their birthdays.
Well,
it's September 19th.
Okay, so we'll pass. We'll get there.
Yeah, well, whatever. We'll remember it. But you know what really blew me away? I don't know if this is actually accurate, but it says here that apparently Precious is 6'9", 225, and Bam is 6'9", 255. Do we really think that Bam is 30 pounds heavier than Precious?
No. Doesn't look it. There was pictures from them practicing yesterday, and it doesn't look like it, man.
That's what I say. I feel like they're shortchanging Precious, because Precious seems like a big guy.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see him, man. Like, especially if that shot is even somewhat real. Like, he was shooting corner threes last season in college, and like some of those workout clips that I've seen, he's been hitting like those corner threes in stride. That would be really huge if they could play him with Bam and him actually make those corner threes. I can't express how massive that would be to this team.
I'm interested as to why you see him as more of a wing player. I understand what you're saying, right? He hits the three. I've seen the tape, the YouTube videos as well. But like in his scouting report coming out of college, I think the biggest upside for him was his ability to finish at the rim. So like that's why I'm confused as to why you have him more as a wing player. Like, he is comfortable around the rim. I think
you can be a role man. Fit in. You can be a role man and get to the rim without, pigeonholing yourself as a big. I mean, I just think, I think more than anything in this league, your position is defined by not what you do on offense, but who you guard on defense. And I think he's going to guard the other players' wings.
Sure.
I think they want, at least, again, this is speculation. I haven't talked to anybody, right? I'm not there in practice. We're all going to find out together. But I would imagine that, at the end of the day, shout out to Alex, what they want to do is they want to get him to a place where he can guard the other players' best wings and then Bam on the big. That way they have a guy on ball, right? So like Precious is like, the size is there, right? The size is there. The athleticism's there. If he's on ball, let's Bam help. Or if Bam is on ball, right? If he's put in that pick and roll, then Precious is there to help. And I think that's what you want. You want one of the two in a help position. And I think that's going to come with playing them together and make Precious a 4. And he could guard those kind of wings. And I think he's going to have the athleticism like Bam to have the foot speed to keep up with them. Now, I don't think he's going to be able to switch 1 through 5 like Bam does because Bam's an extraterrestrial. But I mean, if you're having Jimmy Butler, Bam, and Precious as a defensive front court of what we think that the vision can be, get the fuck out of here. That lights out. Let's go, baby.
Yeah.
Who's guarding that? I mean, Jimmy was a tornado on defense in the finals. I mean, I don't know if you remember that, but on top of everything he did on offense, I mean, just absolutely destructive. And if you throw in a guy like Precious, who you think that he can be a lockdown wing defender, I mean, Christian, correct me if I'm wrong, that might be the second most valuable thing in the league, like outside of shooting off the dribble, like as a skill.
No, absolutely. I mean, the cliche is that defense wins championships, but really it's great offense beats great defense nowadays, right? But fact of the matter is that there's only a handful of guys in the league that can just beat you no matter what, where there's like not much you can do about it. The rest of the guys, you need guys like Bam.
You got to make their life hard.
Exactly. And if Precious can be even 75% of what Bam brings to the table, the Heat all of a sudden have a whole toolbox of long athletic wings. Because really, Bam also is really a wing. Like we treat him like a big because he's a big in the sense of the context of the league. But you're looking at all these guys that are just going to give these wing ball handlers just hell on earth. And that's what you really want in this league. You don't want those guys getting going.
And like, we're going to get into this when we preview our wings, but like when they lost Jay Crowder, they lost the ability to have a guy at the 4 spot to really guard up, right? Now, Mo Harkless is probably going to be able to do that, but just Jay played bigger. And with a guy like Precious,
I don't know if Harkless has the body type for that.
I mean, he's done it in the past, and
I guess we'll see how that goes.
It's not. I don't think it's going to be as effective as what Jay did. So I think the high end of Mo Harkless is about what Jay Crowder gave you last season. Yeah. I think that if all goes well and if everything breaks right, I think that the high end of what he can do is reasonably what Jay gave you. But with Precious, he's a guy that can't play up because he's not really playing up or down. He's kind of playing to his weight, right? And they're not going to need a guy that can play 3. Like he'll be able to guard 3s and 4s, but you know what I mean? Like, and I think that he's going to give that out. Now, if you look at him more as a big, well, that changes a lot. That really eliminates KO's role. And what you have is a guy that's going to come off your bench. That's going to be a rim rolling big, who's going to be able to shoot a little bit. And he's going to play a lot with Dragic. That 2-man game is going to be crucial to their second unit offense. It's going to be a steady diet of pick and rolls. And Dragic, we've talked about this a little bit in the guard preview, way better lob thrower. He's improved that a ton. And I think if you want to keep Dragic young, I mean, you give him a really deadly target kind of rolling. And if you play him in space, if you have Tyler and Duncan and all these guys, spread the floor for him with him and an athletic freak, that's an easy way to put points up. You know what I mean? So yeah, they can use him both ways. I don't think there's a question. Kind of going back to Alex's point of, he's really good around the rim. I think that they'll absolutely have avenues to use him that way. Like, let's look a little bit of like the Celtics went Gordon Hayward, Marcus Smart at the 5, right? Like they have these smaller guys that are guarding 5. Now the Heat have Bam, but they can even do funky things like that. They can have guys like Precious and Bam guarding the opponent. OG Anunoby is another guy that the Raptors used to defend 5. So Spo loves flexibility and he thrives on that flexibility. So like Precious, I think it's the perfect way to end this podcast because Precious both, I may look at him as a wing, Alex may look at him as a big, but in reality, Spo's going to make them whatever they need at that moment. And he's going to be that, we hope he's going to be that kind of malleable, that kind of flexible within the construct of their already very flexible style of basketball. And I think it's great. Fucking pumped.
By the way, you said defense wins championships. That's the cliche. Pat Riley made it very clear. Rebounding wins championships.
No rebounds, no rings.
I mean, it's true. I mean, that I guess rebounding obviously is not the same thing as defense.
Rebounding is the most overrated thing in the sport. I'm sorry.
It is. It is.
I would disagree. I think maybe now it's become underappreciated, because the Heat showed in the finals how big of a problem that is. They lost every single game,
but they
on the
fixed
boards.
it. They fixed the margin, and they won 2 games. And Christian, they didn't lose because they lost on the boards. They lost because they lost their fucking franchise center. You know what I mean?
Right. But at the same time, they won 2 games because Jimmy Butler literally had some of the greatest basketball games in the history of the sport.
But you can mitigate.
They were fighting uphill when you have Anthony Davis and LeBron James and Dwight Howard and even frickin' what's his name? KCP was running around the perimeter grabbing offensive rebounds. As a team, they were just destroying the Heat on the boards, and it's difficult to win that way.
But that was catastrophic injury had written this team, right? I think obviously you can't be the worst fucking rebounding team in the league and win. You can't be the worst at anything in this league and win. But I think that you can be a so-so rebounding team. And if your offense is able to produce at a level that is championship good, you will be able to survive, is what I'm saying. It's if that's your biggest weakness, that's very survivable.
I mean, look, the Heat made it to the finals, right? Even though they chose to go small, which meant that rebounding was going to be a problem for them during the playoffs.
That was a conversation. And they tilt the mat to their fit.
That's what I was thinking of. The Big 3 team was one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA. But obviously, when you have LeBron, Dwayne, and Bosh, I guess it doesn't matter.
I feel like that's more of an asterisk than the actual that's the outlier.
The anomaly, right? Yeah.
I mean, Houston's never had great rebounding teams. I don't think. I haven't looked at the rebound percentage numbers, but I can't imagine that Houston.
Yeah. Houston, where the hell does Houston go? Thank you for making your point.
They had a pretty damn fucking good team. You know what I mean? They've been successful, right? With Clint Capella as really the only kind of plus rebounder. I mean, I know Chris Paul's a plus rebounder at guard, but like I said, obviously it's an important skill. I don't think it's the end all, and I think that the Heat are very survivable without it.
No, yeah, but people saying that rebounding is the most overrated thing in the game,
yeah,
I think that inherently is making it underappreciated because it's not like you can just forget about it.
Oh yeah,
you can't just throw 5'6" people out there and hope that things go well. You better
shoot
60% from the field.
And the Heat did that, and so did the Warriors. It works. It's good. I want to stress and reiterate. Follow us on twitch.tv/MIAHeatbeat. Post-game streams are going to be there. Follow our Discord server. I'm hammering this shit home for the audience. Join the Discord server. We're putting the link in the description. It's fun. We're going to let you know what guests we're having ahead of time so that you can then ask the guests questions that you want. We are going to ask them live on air with any guests that we have. We're going to let you know. We also have just a community on the Discord. We have live game chats. We have all sorts of fun ass things going on. So join that. Click that link below and enjoy the community that we're building there. On Twitch, we're doing our post-game streams again this season. We are very excited. We're also going to be doing a lot more live podcasts. We're going to stream games. We're going to stream us playing 2K. Maybe we'll play some Mario Kart and some Super Smash with some listeners. We're going to have fun. We have lots of cool things planned on the Twitch, so make sure to follow us there. If you're watching on YouTube, I appreciate you. If you're not subscribed, because a lot of you aren't, because our watch numbers are massively outperforming the subscription numbers, consider subscribing. If you don't like us, you can turn it off. We're not going to overload you with content. We're going to upload the pods. We're going to upload the streams, and we're going to have other couple kind of some YouTube exclusive things, but we're really trying to grow this part of our podcast. I mean, we've been going on. This is going to be our 8th season doing Miami Heat Beat, covering the Heat. So we're really excited for everything that we have planned. And this whole new video venture is new to us. If you're a pod listener, I thank you for your undying loyalty, for your support for all these years. If you're new and if you're an OG, make sure to give us a review. We're shockingly we've been around the longest out of all the Heat pods right now. And we have fewer reviews than them, right? So like, I think Locked On Heat came on a little bit after us, and Locked On has like a million more like reviews than us. So, shoot us a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever. And the best, if you start, if you write something funny as a review, we're going to read the best of them. We're going to give you some t-shirts and stuff. We're going to relaunch our shirts. We have some new designs. Make sure to follow us on Instagram. Make sure to follow the great Jake Pablo Media, who's doing a lot of work for us on IG and on Twitter. He's great. I know I'm just rambling on all the stuff we're plugging. I'm just excited for the season. We have lots planned. We have lots going on. So make sure to follow. And also, if you're not following us on Twitter, what are you doing? At MI Heatbeat. That is a bread and butter of this operation. We built this shit on Twitter. So make sure to follow us there. You can follow me at GNavas103. You can follow him at I Can Be Your Hero. That is Christian. And Alex, you can follow him at Alex M. Solana. Is that right? Did I get your at? You've changed your at.
That is right.
Okay. So we'll put all that in the description of the podcast, and we really appreciate all y'all's support. We will see you hopefully on Wednesday. We're going to preview Wings with tentatively Nekias Duncan of Basketball News, greatest basketball writer going right now, and our 2K coach Frankie, who's less cool than Nekias, but and me, maybe Brian.
And you just threw Frankie under the bus so dirty right there.